So, Professor Anthony, same sort of question or same question. How would you define, describe, or relate the word or concept of oppression in this context?
I like Paulo Freire's definition. He was a radical educator in Brazil and wrote one of the greatest books I think I've ever read, because called Pedagogy of the Oppressed, and he defined oppression as people's perverse tendency to deprive other people of freedom and happiness. And I think building on what was said by the other two guests, I mean, this idea of oppression is a disruption and a disturbance in our social environment, which is meant to be cooperative. And I do get what Dr. Karim says about the tribalism, because it is true. We had groups of like 100, 150. And so there was competition if resources were scarce between those groups. But again, it was never based on a trait. It was based on just, I need to survive. There's only a limited amount of water. And if you can't go anywhere else, right? But for ultimately, the human story, and actually the biological story, is the story of cooperation. Nothing works without it. And all the cells in our body work together in a cooperative community of cells that causes us to be an organism. And that, and when there are cells that don't in our body act in a cooperative way, and they act in a selfish way, and they band together to be selfish, those cells are cancer cells, and they can make us sick or kill us. And I think of oppression in the same way. We've got a dynamic where oppression is the vehicle, is the tool that's used by people who have power and don't deserve it, and who are hoarding power to make sure they don't have to share it. No one's born hating anybody because of the color of their skin or their gender expression or anything. And the thing that's sad is there's two levels of it. Both the other guests hit on was that there is that level that's personal, where someone just has this irrational response and reaction and hatred or just terrible feeling of another person who's a member of a different group, whether it's because of the color of their skin or whatever, or their country of origin. But then there's the other element, which is the people on top I don't know that Donald Trump has personal hatred toward black people, but I know he could use those that did to hoard power. So there's that other level, which is at the ultimate level. I look at the relationship between a victim of domestic intimate partner violence and their perpetrator. It's based on keeping them in the dark about the true nature of power in that relationship. It's about that perpetrator maintaining ultimate power and control of every aspect of that victim's life, including socially isolating them and cutting them off from seeing that there might be others living differently and that there may be people that could help them. Ultimately, to keep that person, if the dynamic is, say, a man who's a perpetrator and they're married to their victim, keep that person basically as a slave who can perform duties and tasks for them. And when you take it from that micro into the macro, it's the same thing, right? So just the trope that many who are white supremacists and racists would say for years, saying that black people don't like to work. Well, who built this nation? Africans built this nation. That's a pretty ambitious thing for people who don't like to work. Africans also built the pyramids and had architecture and science long before European civilizations did. So it's this thing like, well, we're going to say these terrible things about them to deny them rights, but we need them to maintain our hoarding of power. And so we can build institutions that allow us to continue to exploit others, the global South especially, and people in our own country as well. And it's based on this perverse notion that if I hoard power, I'm going to live longer, be happier, feel better. And I will throw this out. There's scientific basis to that. If you take two monkeys and put them in a cage, and they've never met each other. One becomes the dominant monkey and the other becomes the subordinate monkey. Not too long after that, the subordinate monkey starts to get sick. Over time, that subordinate monkey will find, after it dies, much younger than the dominant monkey. There'll be a degradation of the frontal lobe, gray matter area of the brain, not as developed as ours. The adrenal glands, which are responsible for the stress response, will be swollen because they would have been used so much. The hippocampus will be degraded. That's where memories are. But the amygdala, which is the brain's alarm system, will be swollen. What does that mean? You stress a rat out, the same thing. The hair falls out, the teeth fall out, they die younger. If you look at the life expectancy of people who are poor or Black Americans in our country, far lower than those that are wealthy or those that are white. And so there's a reason for this, because there is a secret here. And the secret is those on top know that their ability to stay on top adds years to their life and makes them believe that they're happier. There's a perverseness about that. And it's based on the belief that power is a limited source and it can't be shared, because then I won't stand out and I won't matter. And the last thing I'll say about it is, like, there are literally people, and I see this in Democrats a lot lately, even more so than Republicans, who basically have this attitude that their having healthcare doesn't mean much if everybody has it. It's a bizarre, bizarre thing. And it's this feeling of, I need to be special. I need to be on top, because if I'm on top, I'll do better. And the reality is people on top actually do better. They're worse people. I hope I didn't meander too much with that answer.